I'm Annoushka, and I've been designing jewellery for 30 years and collecting charms for as long as I can remember. In this podcast, I will be asking a series of extraordinary women to tell me their life story in 7 charms. Welcome to my podcast, My Life in 7 Charms. I'm delighted to welcome Georgie Coleridge-Cole to My Life in 7 Charms. So nice to see you.
It's so nice to be here. I have admired you throughout my career, so I can't tell you how lovely it is to be on your podcast. Honestly, when I started SheerLuxe, you were up there, the pinnacle of female entrepreneurship, and anyway, so it's really such a joy to be here.
Well, you've taken over from there, so it's absolutely fantastic. So, Georgie, I'm going to talk to you about some of the charms that you gave me or told me. It'll be quite interesting because I think some of them might have changed over the course of this morning.
I'm not known for being that straightforward. And anyway, here's the proof.
Yeah, here's
the proof.
Let's go.
There might be a few changes along the way, but anyway.
So the first one was, you said I want it to be a fox head. You can't see it on there because it's changed, but actually I'm going to make it a beautiful 3-dimensional fox head in yellow gold, with kind of the texture of his fur. Can you just tell me why we're talking about a fox head?
We are talking about the fox head because my grandmother, I miss my mother's granny every day. She died when she was 96.
Your mother's mother?
My mother's mother.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
And I miss my mother's mother every day. She died when I was 96. Sadly, she made my wedding, but didn't meet my daughter. And she was wonderful, absolutely wonderful. My father's mother died in her 60s.
Yeah.
And she had one child, my father, and she longed for a daughter. She used to dress him in dresses.
She used to dress him in dresses?
Dress him in dresses. And she was very social and loved to get dressed out, go out, throw parties, could drink gin and tonics quicker than anyone else. My mother always says I'd have got on so brilliantly with her, and what a shame that I couldn't
share a G&T.
Couldn't share a G&T. Yeah. And she died when I was about 8.
Yeah.
And she left me all her jewellery.
Oh my God.
It was really a wonderful collection of jewellery. Some of it a little bit dated, but some beautiful pieces.
All real.
All real.
Right.
There was a bit of jade in there.
Yeah, but it's all real.
But yeah, all real. There was an incredible diamond brooch that had 36 diamonds.
Wow.
And you would never wear a brooch like that now, although brooches are making a comeback.
They are, yeah.
But ultimately I had some of that brooch made into my engagement ring.
So is that?
Yeah. So those are some of the stones.
Brooch.
Some of the stones from the brooch. I have some left over. I've had some made into other pieces.
Oh God, we should talk about that.
And
we should discuss, because I do a lot of remodeling for I do a lot of remodeling for clients.
How interesting. Well, I designed this, and I always wanted an engagement ring that had straight lines.
Yeah.
But the stones were not cushion cut.
They're beautiful. Old mine cut stones are absolutely.
They were round stones. She left me some pearl and diamond earrings that I wore probably too young and lost.
Right.
She left me a cigarette case and a powder compact. And one of the things she left me was, she was into hunting. I mean, this is obviously a long time ago. And she left me a fox pin that she used to wear.
Like a stock?
Yeah.
Like a stock pin?
Yeah. And it was a fox's head. And it had ruby eyes. And the jewellery all lived in a box, in a vault somewhere.
Yeah.
And I wasn't allowed it until I turned a certain age. And anyway, eventually I turned that age and the box came out. And my mother kept it in her safe for years. And over the years, I've sort of raided it and got out the good stuff and left the stuff that was a bit out of date. Anyway, the other day, my mother said, "You must take this now." Anyway, we opened the box. Inside was a watch that was given to my great great-grandmother who was the runner-up at Wimbledon in 19...
Oh my God.
Was it 11?
God, how amazing.
And amazingly, I found an old newspaper online that had a drawing of her playing at Wimbledon in this skirt. I mean, you've never seen her. She was like she's going to a dance. She was actually playing at Wimbledon. And in it was this watch, which I must take to the All England Museum.
Yeah, 100%.
Because I'm sure they'd be fascinated to see it.
Yeah.
And
is it gold? Is it
it's gold.
It's gold.
And it's still,
diamonds?
It
no
still
diamonds?
works. It's gold with a leather strap. I think the leather strap was changed.
Right.
And it pops up like a pocket watch.
Oh, wow.
And it still works. And this fox.
Right. So what have you done with the fox?
Well, nothing yet.
But or you're just going to wear it?
So maybe I should come and see you and get you to turn it.
Well,
into
maybe it
something
should be a
lovely.
charm. Maybe we should use that as your charm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
But
that's
you obviously come from a very glamorous family, because you talked about before you told me just now it was going to be a fox, I'd actually got a hairdryer. Because I think somewhere I've read that your mother's obviously very glamorous and always has her hair done and her lipstick.
Well, the story was that she went on holiday and she came back once and her great girlfriend said, "Did the three of you have a lovely time?" And she said, "Who?" And she said, "Well, you, Tim, and your hairdryer." Yeah, she's not sort of super into fashion, but, you know.
But super glam.
She's always very put together and looks very pretty and makes an effort. And I think I've learnt that from her, to always make an effort. You never regret it. As Anya Hindmarsh always says, if in doubt, wash your head. That's
100%.
definitely my mother's
making an effort. But just thinking about SheerLuxe for a minute, did you ever think at the beginning of SheerLuxe, 2007, that you would become the kind of physical face of SheerLuxe and kind of style icon? Do you think the influence of your grandmother, your mother being so glamorous and careful about her appearance, etc., so do you think that's given you the confidence to do that?
I don't know. I think I've always made an effort. I've always got changed for supper, still do. If I go and stay with someone in the country, I will always change for supper, even if they're not now, because some people don't. I suppose I didn't grow up in a household where everyone had, there's no sort of archive of wonderful designer pieces or anything. I wasn't
It's just pride in how you...
But just making an effort and then having an eye, which I always say I think I picked up from my stepmother, really, and traipsing around markets in Hong Kong. And yeah, as far as sort of being the face of SheerLuxe and style, I think I'm known as the founder. I would say I have a team now who do the style bit a lot better than I do. I have my style. I have.
So how do you describe your style?
I think sort of quite classic, chic, but with a bit of a modern edge. Probably. I love tailoring. Very rarely not in a jacket.
Yeah, and I can see you've got lots of jewellery. So
love jewellery.
Yeah.
Love.
Leave me alone, there's none of mine on there.
Well, I love. Well, I wish there was an I adore your jewellery. I think you're phenomenal, and I've always said the most inspiring thing is an entrepreneur that does it again, and clearly you've proven that. I
mean, I think that's what entrepreneurs love, isn't it? It's never gets, once it gets dull, you don't do it. But you love what you do. If you love what you do, it's easy to do it, to do it again. Yeah. So then your next charm, you really just said to me, I've got 3 children. So I've done this, I've done a charm a bit like this for myself, actually, and I love it. It's a 3-dimensional yellow gold pea pod, brushed yellow gold on the back, and it's open on the front, and there are 3 pearls to represent each of your children.
I've just seen this charm because you've just shown me. I'm gonna because hopefully this clip might make it, but you've just shown me the book that you get. So this is actually a service that people can commission you to make for them a product, and it is about the most beautiful thing. And you open it up, and there's a book with the photos for each chapter, and then at the bottom you have your bracelet. I don't know. Can you see? I'm blown away by this. I felt like people should see this. Anyway, It's absolutely stunning. So you have all the charms.
Yeah, so you have all of the time.
I'm laughing that your husband wanted to be sex on legs. He said he might be a gold rock, but instead he's sex on legs.
Sex on legs.
Which makes me laugh because he's got a sense of humour, hasn't he? But I can see
So there's your peapod.
Yeah,
exactly.
beautiful.
So that's got...
I was wondering what you would do with 3 children as a charm, but that's heaven.
So what would you have done?
Well, I thought you were going to do 3 little stickmen or something.
Well, no, because I think...
No, that's way better. That's why I'm not a jewellery designer.
But charms are talking points, aren't they? They are absolutely. So when you're kind of, when we're not around
I love
anymore...
that so much.
Thank you. When we're not around anymore, the charms are the things that will be, just like you described, your fox head that your grandmother left you, etc., etc. I think that's that's the power of jewellery. And I think one of the other things that's interesting, I'd be interested to see what you think, charms are always being reinvented. So whether there were traditionally charms for charm bracelets to commemorate travels, etc., etc. But now we're all about charms on handbags and, are you kind of following all of that
I'm
trend?
not really, but I am now remembering that there was a charm bracelet that my grandmother left me.
I'm sure, because, so you should...
And it had one of those lovely heart locks. I don't know what happened to it.
No, you
God,
should...
don't give your children things that they inherit too young.
No, I know. So tell me about your children. And
So I've got a girl who's 13,
yeah,
year 9,
yeah,
a boy who is 12, year
yeah,
7,
yeah.
and a little one who's not so little, who keeps promising me. She promised me she wouldn't turn 5 and she's about to turn 8, so I'm really cross with her. And she is year 3, I think.
And I'm right in thinking that the middle one, Otto, is neurodiverse?
Yes, he is.
And how have you coped with all of that and everything else in your life? Oh my God, that's a lot to cope
Yeah.
with. Yeah.
It's a lot. Although I have this real frustration that there's this belief that there's sort of neurotypical and that, the bulk of people are neurotypical, and then there's this little pocket of neurodiverse over here. And, we'll deal with them and we'll give them extra time or some medication and everyone else is the same. And actually, we're not. Someone a bit more introverted might be towards the autistic end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Someone who's an extrovert might be more towards the ADHD end of the spectrum. So I have sort of slight frustration with where we are and how we think we understand neurotypical and neurodiverse. And actually, I think it's way more complex. Ultimately, we can't give every child a bespoke education, can we? So it's got to be mainstream. But yes, my son is what you would call neurodiverse.
And what's that meant for the other 2, for example? Because I guess...
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to parent a neurodiverse child.
Yeah.
He has ADHD amongst other challenges. And it's hard. It's hard on parents. It's very hard as a mother. I thought I'd have a son that would go to the schools my brothers went to and be captain of the whatever as my brothers were, and I've had a really different child. He'll find his thing. He's very loved. I think we're probably all better people because he's in our lives. I think.
I was going to say, as a parent, it must have taught you.
Yeah, I think I'd be the tiger mum probably if I wasn't his mother. But I always say, and I've said this before lots of times, I think I'm a better mother because I do work. And, I know, they're fascinated with what I do. They understand business in a way that not all children do, and I'm really proud of that. And we have great conversations, and we will sit and discuss why McDonald's is a brilliant business or why beauty pie has disrupted the beauty industry. My middle child started a car washing business and made a fortune.
I love that.
And it was called Bear Valley. We call him Bear, Otto Bear.
Oh.
And I would literally see him spend all Saturday afternoon washing very sweet friends' cars who would drop them off. But actually, he did a really good job. Some of my friends' cars are absolutely filthy. God, I got a shock. And the irony was I was a sort of QC. So they'd say the irony that they contributed the car, and I was giving it a quick polish so that Otto got a nice tip. But you know, he made 800 quid in sort of 6 months, and I mean, he said it's having a sabbatical, but you know,
800 quid.
Yeah, he made a fortune cleaning cars.
Well, he's set up for life, isn't he?
And my eldest is like, what's my thing going to be? What's my thing going to be? And she's 13. She came in for 2 days work experience at half term, and I said, do a bit more of that, and you can temp in the summer, because we have temps in the summer, but you have to come when you have to work, and she really wants to. So I think, strangely, because they are surrounded by some peers of mine doing really cool things, they're actually their role models. Yeah, and I think that's a huge problem that we have in this country, is that we don't have enough business, I mean, it's such a general word, role models for, you know, the emerging, coming up generations. And I always say, you know, if I was running this country, I'd have a business committee that were spokespeople for younger generations, helping them to understand, you know, what entrepreneurship looked like and what to look for. And I do think my children are really inspired by wanting to create something themselves.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic. I mean, that is fantastic. That's you know, I'm very involved in the King's Trust, but that is all about inspiring the next generation of young people and giving them the confidence they need to find their thing.
My 7-year-old wants to design dresses for the Queen. That's her. I'm trying to explain to her. It's quite hard to make money in fashion, but anyway, I'll work on that one.
In fashion design, yeah, exactly. But you've managed to find another way to do it, all around fashion, having said that. So, you know. I want to take a quick moment to say thank you to our sponsor, Rome. I was recently introduced to this brilliant new skincare brand, and I've got to say, I'm already a big fan. Their clinically backed formulas are smart, simple, and seriously effective. Using the latest biotechnology, Rome pairs the best of nature with groundbreaking science. No fuss, no overthinking, just well-made, purposeful formulas that really deliver. It's honestly changed the way I think about looking after my skin. We're proud to be partnering with a brand that shares our outlook. Authentic, curious, and always pushing for better. So thank you, Rome, not just for supporting this podcast, but for proving that skincare doesn't need to be complicated to be meaningful. You said to me, charms, about, you know, I want it to represent heart, love, women, strength, emotions, and I think in your kind of quick note you wrote, it's okay to wear your heart on your sleeve. So I've taken that quite literally, as you can see, and I've designed a shirt cuff, which is exactly as a miniature shirt cuff would be, in white gold, polished white gold, and I've put a small little ruby heart, which is a cufflink, and I'm thinking that is absolutely wearing your heart on your sleeve, and I just think it'll be adorable, and it says exactly what it is on the tin. But tell me about this charm and this idea of your kind of heart and showing your emotions.
People often say to me, actually, you're really nice. It's something that people have said to me and still say quite a lot.
Well, they think you're not going to be nice because you're a businesswoman.
Yeah.
So they immediately assume, woman in business, tough as nails, scary.
And I was being interviewed by someone recently, and they said, you know, what would you like to be remembered for? My answer was for someone who built a business, who set the standard for what successful digital publishing looks like, but did it with heart and gave a shit. I think people want to think, and Charlotte, our editor, said this on a podcast the other day, and one of our team said this, talking about her career history. People want to think that SheerLuxe is sort of this company of bitchy women, and it's...
Do they want to think that?
Yeah, they do. There's a sort of horrible narrative that sort of rears its head on the social media now and again. And it's genuinely not like that. And I have a real heart. I'm a real crier. You know, one of the reasons I do less sort of broadcasting at SheerLuxe now is because I got to a point where I couldn't take the criticism that comes, sadly, in this country.
From the media.
From the media, just wanting to take people down who are achieving anything. And I just like, I can't do it anymore. Ironically, I'm doing it more because of the Middle East. And so, I always say when you start a business, you leverage what you can and you have yourself. And that's probably, my strong point is people and conversations and connecting with people. But I pulled back from that because I couldn't cope with the kind of criticism and people, making accusations about me that weren't true. And actually, I really do have this heart, and I really believe in wearing your emotions on your sleeve, and
being a woman.
Yeah, and I think the empathy we have as women, makes us better leaders, better employers, and I also really believe in using our platform. I mean, we have a reach in the UK, SheerLuxe, it's around 5 million in our network now.
Wow.
And
God, congratulations. That is extraordinary. Did you ever think it would be that?
No.
That's extraordinary.
No. And that's looking at our social following, our video following,
subscribers,
our community, subscribers, etc., etc. And we had a mum I was at nursery with. I got a message the other day saying, you must listen to this podcast, from this woman called Lottie. And her husband had died at Dignitas in April this year. Just over 2 years ago, he was diagnosed with motor neuron disease. And on the train on the way home, he rang Dignitas. And
on
then
the way
he rang
home
her.
From his diagnosis.
And he'd not been well for a while. They had a hunch, I think, his voice was going. And I think it takes a long time to get a diagnosis.
Yeah.
And motor neuron disease, there is no happy ending. There is, Stephen Hawking, you end up in the two, there is no happy ending.
Yeah.
There's no...
Yeah, no.
It's a done deal.
Yeah.
And the quality of life is pretty awful.
Yeah.
Long story short, he said, I'm not going to shorten my life, I'm going to shorten my death, and I'm going to live this out on my see this out on my terms. And they had 3 children who are now 16, 14 and 10-ish. And they had a sort of gap year and made memories for a year before he got too ill. And then in April this year, he said it's time, and he rang Dignitas. She posted this week a picture of her and him on their last Zoom the day he died. And they're both a Zoom photo. And I got in touch with her last week and I said, do you remember me? We were at nursery together. She said, of course I did. Of course I did. We went on a school trip to a farm, and I remember thinking you were really glamly wearing Isabel Marant boots and I was wearing sorrels. And I said, well, it was probably totally inappropriate. She said it was. You got really muddy. But anyway, and they left London and we didn't stay in touch. But I always thought she was a fun girl. Anyway, and I said, look, can we do anything? She'd been on in the Times, interviewed by Marina Fogel.
Yeah.
She'd been on Sky News and she'd been on Brian Gordon's podcast. And I said, can we do anything? Anyway, we moved hell and high water to get her in. So it's being voted in Parliament this Friday.
This Friday?
Yeah.
This week?
Assisted dying. Right. And I said, is there anything we can do? And we happened to have a gold show hosted by Joe Good going on Tuesday. Anyway, we somehow managed to make it work, and we had her in. And she said, look, not everyone agrees with this. I'm not some big campaigner. I'm just carrying out his wishes. Anyway, she came in and told her story. We really give a shit at SheerLuxe. I give a shit. I work. You talked about me wanting to work in the prison service. I do employ 2 ex-offenders, and and we do quite a lot of other stuff to use our platform for cause. Do, yeah. So I guess I just, to me, would like to be remembered not as just some punchy businesswoman, which is sort of what people assume, cold. And I remember meeting Natalie Massenet really early in my career. And someone introduced me to her and I met her for coffee. And she said,
for those people that don't know.
Founder of Net-a-Porter,
right, yeah.
and was like you, a sort of total hero of mine when I started SheerLuxe.
Compared to her, but yeah.
And I met her for a coffee, and she said, just remember that you can work in this industry and be nice. And look, I can't profess to know Natalie well at all. I met her once or twice after, and that was years and years and years ago. But you know, you can have backbone, and you can have drive, and you can have a heart.
You can do all of those things.
And I sometimes think I'm quite misunderstood. So that's where the heart came from.
Well, I'm very surprised you are misunderstood, but I think don't you think there is this pressure that comes with having to put on some kind of performance a bit?
And you have got to be strong, and you've got to lead.
Yeah.
And you've got to be hard at times.
Yeah.
But I'm really proud of the warmth that runs through SheerLuxe.
But I love this charm. So you on your note you wrote money, sod maths. I love that. Sod maths. Understand the value of money, and grasp economics and change the mindset. So the charm that I made for that it's a calculator. It's literally a miniature calculator, rectangular, yellow gold, shiny case, and kind of matte gold buttons with all the numbers.
It's a pretty bling calculator, isn't it?
It's pretty bling, but
it's a J-Lo calculator.
Yeah. But the window, the white bit that you can see there, yellow gold, and I'd really, in a perfect world, like the numbers to be in diamonds. That'd be really cool. But just talk me through this sod maths and economics.
Well, it leads on nicely from what we were just saying, in that, I think we have a huge problem in this country when it comes to entitlement, understanding where it comes from. God, I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but it is what I believe. And I think, Rishi was all about, maths being compulsory. Economics is what should be compulsory. And I remember my husband saying to me years ago, and I was going to subscribe to the Week, and he said, no, subscribe to Money Week. And, it is that simple. Money makes the world go round. Mm-hmm. And everything has to come from somewhere. It's very hard being an employer. It's quite a thankless task, if I'm honest.
Well, of course.
SheerLuxe employs nearly 75 people. We actually pay a really decent starting salary, although if you go onto various websites, they make these outrageous accusations that everyone's married to rich husbands and that, they're basically
in terms of
volunteering.
Employees.
Yeah, actually, we pay our staff quite well.
Yeah.
And
you're paying them well because they want to live, they want to enjoy their life and live the life that they want to live.
Yeah. I really feel strongly that we need to instill in the next generations how the world works and how money makes the world go round. And if we don't get that into their DNA at a young age, they're not going to grow up with drive and ambition. And I just think that should be like a fundamental part of education. And my children are coming home learning Latin and French that no one talks to you, even if you go to France. Mm-hmm. And actually, where's economics? Where's business being compulsory? And actually, my son, I went to look at a school for my son who, as I said, is neurodiverse. And they said, well, a lot of children here do business as a GCSE. In fact, most do. And I said, oh, that's interesting. And they said, because if you're neurodiverse, you probably won't go and work for one of the big four. Yeah. And you may well be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And we need to be inspiring the next generation of entrepreneurs. They need to understand economics. They need to understand where it comes from. Those that are employed need to understand how we're funding the NHS, which is bust, and the education system, and. So I also think it's okay to be driven by money. And I sort of said I was someone that waitressed throughout school, I worked in a Barclays lost and stolen credit card centre on the outskirts of Edinburgh as a student. And I wanted to make money. I was inspired by success. Working Girl was my favourite film. And to my point of, if I was running the government, I'd be putting together a business committee with all sorts of different business leaders to inspire. But I don't think we see those role models enough unless we seek them out.
Where do you think you learnt the value of money, though? Where did
My father has a great work ethic.
what did he do?
He was a financial advisor.
Right. So
But he has a really good
work ethic. Yeah.
I think I always say I wanted a Rolodex. I wanted to be Melanie Griffith in Working Girl.
I love that. I want a Rolodex.
I wanted to walk into an office in a pencil skirt and
Look at you. Look.
you know, that to me, that's who I wanted to be when I grew up. I played officers all the time.
And here we are. Which brings me on to your next charm, which I thought was really interesting, that you said I want it to be SheerLuxe in Arabic. So I know that you've just launched in the Middle East. First of all, I mean, it has been a very UK-centric business, I think, until recently.
Yeah.
So what's the departure suddenly to the Middle East?
I'm asked that a lot in the Middle East because I think people are sceptical and they're like, "Are you legit? Why are you here?"
Yeah.
It came from reading the money meets, reading the business press, reading about the growth in GDP in the Middle East region, in the UAE, starting to read more about Saudi and just thinking that was quite interesting versus quite a flat economy here.
Yeah.
Coupled with that, I studied Islam for 2 years at university when I was at Edinburgh.
Did you?
Yeah, I did a French degree, but we had to do 2 years of something else. So I did that. I don't know why. I was always fascinated. I did an exchange to a school in London that was very Muslim focused. I have a curious mind. I started to do some research and discovered, well, there was this growing young new population of women building businesses, creative women in our industry. And I sort of thought, right, I need to get on a plane and go and, you know, have a look. And I discovered a digital publishing industry that was pretty nascent versus where we are. Yeah. It's sort of like where SheerLuxe was when I started.
And how long, that was last year?
That was last year. Yeah, my first trip was April last year. We launched the site in October. Our plan is to have a hub in the UAE, a hub in Saudi. I ended up in Saudi sort of by mistake. We launched with a series called Leading Ladies in the Middle East, where I filmed a full day with 6 different female entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And by mistake, my assistant hadn't realised one of them was based in Riyadh. And suddenly, 10 days before we were due to go and film for 6 days in Dubai, one of them was in Riyadh. And we went in. I said to my colleague, "Are you okay with this?" I was like, "I wouldn't take you if I didn't think it was safe."
Yeah.
And in September last year, we went to Riyadh for the day and it blew me away.
Not at all what you expected.
Not at all what I expected. But there was a woman who worked for MISC, which was MBS's, one of his foundations, and she said, if there's one thing I achieve in my life, it's that people know that Saudi is open, women are free, and you can wear what you want. And I've been there 5-6 times now. The women are running the world in Saudi. It is. Someone said to me at the beginning of my sort of research into the Middle East, they said, you know, Saudi's the wild card. I mean, it's not the wild card. Saudi is on. It's phenomenal. The women are phenomenal. The hospitality, the culture.
And are you seeing, out of interest, the fashion and the trends that are coming out of that part of the world? Are they influencing us, or because it's always been the other way around? So it's just really interesting to see that.
I would say that their style is sort of modernising, if you like.
Yeah.
You know, I remember someone saying, the powers that be in Dubai don't like Dubai just being seen through the lens of Dubai bling. It's not just parties and palaces.
Yeah.
It's not. There are people running really huge, successful businesses in fashion and beauty in all categories. And the first time I went to Saudi, there were, a lot of people in black hijabs, very covered.
Yeah.
I was standing in a mall in Riyadh 10 days ago with a colleague. I said, this just feels so different. And God, I'm respectful. I'm not wearing short skirts and, it's phenomenal. Someone said to me, it's the fastest evolution of a modern nation that we're going to see in our lifetime. And what I've seen in a year is incredible. And
the next charm, so we've had a conversation about this just now. So originally it was going to be a champagne bottle, but subsequently you've said, well, maybe coffee cup, maybe Coke, can of Coke. So which should it be?
Well, I say I always think champagne is the drink that you could literally drink at any time of the day, and it will
I
always
feel
be.
really bad we've got a glass of water. It's so boring.
But you know, it is that drink
Yeah.
that it's never.
There's never a bad time
You
for
can't
champagne.
keep drinking it because your mouth gets very
Yeah.
dry. But just, you know, even going to the Ritz. I remember going to a great meeting with a girlfriend. She was like, "Let's go and celebrate." We went to the Ritz and had a glass of champagne at 11 o'clock. It was wonderful.
Okay.
Diet Coke is what I have drunk alongside a little bit of water for the last however many years. I am known for it. I've always got a can of Diet Coke in my bag. Anyway.
Is that energy or is that what is that?
Caffeine.
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 I absolutely hate fizzy drinks, so I can't get my head around.
Oh,
Coke.
well, yeah, sadly, that's
Yeah.
not my champagne.
Well, I can deal with
That's
champagne.
okay.
Yeah, yeah.
But weirdly, I only really recently discovered coffee.
Right.
I have been drinking it now for about 2 months. It came from interviewing the founder of Grind. He brought in a couple of cans of iced coffee. And he said, well, you can try our new one. I thought, well, that's bloody rude. And by the way, I love the smell of coffee. Don't mind carrot cake or a coffee ice cream. But just, anyway, had a can of, I was like, this is quite nice. Started to drink.
Or was it the iced latte,
Yeah.
something with caramel?
Yeah,
Is it that one? I know exactly what it is.
Delicious.
Yeah.
It is delicious. So started to drink those, and then in Dubai, when all the Middle East, you know, it is bloody tiring being there. We are filming, we are on. You do not breathe, and you need. I drink Diet Coke and take Pro Plus. Anyway, started drinking an iced coffee from.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking sort of 3 hours sleep a night, jet lag.
Yeah. Keep
Full
going.
day, then clearing your inbox, then getting up to film at 7, 8. You know, it's quite
It's the
draining.
glamour of running your
All
own
the
business.
glamour.
It's the
All
glamour.
Anyway, started going into Joe and the Juice and having a nice coffee.
Yeah.
A colleague said to me, Georgie, why don't you try a latte with a bit of agave? I was like, well, this is nice. Anyway, I've evolved to a cappuccino with agave. I'm now on a coconut cappuccino, no agave. I now come down to the kitchen every morning and make myself a coffee. My husband says every day, or he has done for the last 2 months, I don't think I'm ever going to get used to you drinking coffee. I'm like, are we going to say this for the next however many years?
That's so funny, isn't it? Because
I'm just in a whole new world of the Middle Eastern coffee.
just talking about your husband quickly, I'm really interested to know, because he was the one that encouraged you to start SheerLuxe,
Yeah.
SheerLuxe, as you said, was there any temptation that you should go into business together?
I sort of think one day we will, maybe.
But he does his own thing.
He works in corporate finance.
Yeah.
And
But why did you? Was that about not?
I mean, when
wanting
I started SheerLuxe, I think he was earning about 40 grand.
Yeah.
And we lived in a little rented flat.
Okay.
And we lived off his salary.
Okay,
So there was
you couldn't afford to.
there was absolutely no.
Yeah.
He is an chartered accountant.
Yeah.
And he did our books by night. He helped me write the business plan. I very much run the business, have built the business, but with a huge supporter champion by my side, and somebody who's taught me sort of financial literacy. I think actually I'm sort of pretty commercially savvy, and I've learned a lot of that from him. Yeah.
So your last charm. Now this is another one. You've slightly put a curveball. So you put
I wouldn't want to be too
laughter.
easy. That would be boring.
No, I know, but now I'm going to have to draw them all again.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's absolutely fine. So so you said it was all about laughter, but when you came in, you went, I don't know, laughter, peace. I mean, I love the laughter thing because
I
the
am
laughter.
not about peace and laughter because.
But you can't have both. We could have done both. It's only sales for 7. So I've done it as laughter. I've done it as literally.
Well, should we do laughter last? Because it's a better one to end on.
Okay, well, let's talk about peace. So I haven't drawn peace, but I guess I'd either draw the peace sign or I might have a hand.
I like that.
I kind of think that could be.
I like that.
Yeah. So, okay, go on then. Tell me peace. Talk to me about that.
I feel, so back to sort of the heart and being this ballsy woman, and I actually realise as I get older how much I hate confrontation. I hate my children arguing more than anything. It really upsets me.
Yeah.
It really upsets me.
Yeah.
feel also very, very heavy about the state of the world at the moment. I feel very heavy. I feel very, very disappointed by the state of play and how Western leaders are or aren't. How I sort of feel like if there were more women running countries, I just can't believe
they wouldn't be a better place.
It wouldn't be a better place.
It's so interesting.
I just think women aren't driven by ego in the same way, and I can't believe that if Putin was female, or Netanyahu was female, or, you know, there aren't many female leaders of, you know, Hezbollah's certainly not led by women, and you know, I just.
Well, America won't be either.
No, I know, and I feel all these years on, what have we learnt, and the sort of lack of regard for human life, and particularly in the last couple of years with what's going on in the Middle East and what's going on in Ukraine. I think it's, and look, I know there are a load of other places in the world where there are similar things playing out. I suppose those are the ones that we're the most exposed to, and I think it's deeply sad that there isn't a high regard for human life. I just wish we had more respect for the value of human life, how temporary it is, and how we should not be wiping
every
people
day.
out by the
Yeah.
So that was my peace charm.
Well, that's very powerful, and
but we went with happiness.
we did go with happiness.
Laughter.
So we can end on happiness.
Let's end on laughter.
happiness, because God, look, well, I've known you since whenever you started, 2007, I guess, and well, first of all, you've never struck me as scary. And also, you do laugh a lot. You would strike me as somebody who is full of laughter. Why have you chosen this?
Just because I love to laugh. There's nothing.
What makes you laugh?
Silly things on Instagram when I go through a hole.
Okay.
I will frequently be sitting in my office with colleagues and be roaring, and everyone is sort of, it's glass, and everyone is outside thinking, what are they laughing about this time? There's just nothing like laughter. I went to a dinner party on Friday and we howled and howled and howled, and I woke up the next morning and we were messaging, and I said I wish I could bottle that, because it was just
so
pure joy, and I think without laughter life's very boring.
Well, to your point about the peace and the world's, the state of the world, we must never lose the laughter.
No.
Georgie, thank you so much. It's so lovely. So lovely to catch up and get talk a little bit about your life in charms. Now, you're going to find this really difficult, but as a thank you, I'd like to make one of these charms for you. But it's a bit tricky because they're not all on there now. So we've got to assume that this is a fox. It's not a hairdryer, so just pretend that looks like a fox, okay? This could be a champagne bottle, it could be a coffee cup, or it could be a can of Coke. And this obviously could be the peace sign, which we've discussed is going to be, a hand movement.
I think it's really easy for me.
Okay, well that's
it's the heart, because it covers all of it, I think. And I'm tempted to choose the calculator as a reminder that I need to work hard enough to order a whole life in 7 charms.
Yes.
But that's something to work towards.
You can absolutely work towards that. Okay, we're going to make your heart on your sleeve.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. It's so lovely to see you.
Hi, lovely.
To see
How are
you.
Very well, thanks.
You're looking gorgeous. So do you remember what we are going to show you? Because you probably don't remember what your charms were.
Yeah, I think we went heart on the sleeve.
So here we are. I really hope you like this.
Of course I'm going to like it.
No, you might not, but it's for me, it's sparked a whole kind of thing.
Oh, I love it! And it's brushed gold.
It's brushed gold. It's got little burnished edges.
Oh, Annoushka, you're so clever. It's my heart on my sleeve.
It's your heart on your sleeve. Look.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, I'm so touched. Well, I've known Annoushka for quite a long time now, and she's always been a bit of an icon and inspiration. So I was totally honoured, thrilled to be asked to come on her podcast and to talk about my life in charms. So I also have a little tattoo on my wrist, which also represents wearing my heart on my sleeve. So how apt now to have a charm to go with it. I think it's the most incredible service. It's nothing I've ever seen before. I've always loved charm bracelets. My grandmother actually left me a charm bracelet when she died, which I sadly lost. So I've sort of dreamt of building another. And you know, what better place to do it?
Thank you for joining us on My Life in Charms. If today's conversation has inspired you to reflect on your own story, begin your Life in Charms journey at Annoushka.com or email bespoke@Annoushka.com. And don't forget to follow or subscribe to hear more extraordinary stories told in jewels.